The new movie Horrible Bosses pokes fun at what is a common complaint for a lot of Americans. But jokes aside, being bullied by an out-of-control manager is nothing to laugh at.
I can crush you anytime I want.
The film chronicles the struggles of three friends with horrible bosses. It plays their workplace woes for laughs.
Unless your boss isn't sexually harassing you.
See if this thing is working.
And takes the disgruntled employee to extremes.
Our lives would be easier if our bosses weren't alive.
You can fire Professor Xavier.
You mean Hank?
Still, everyone seems to have a story about a bad boss.
I just had a horrible boss recently the start of the summer.
He'd always be yelling and screaming at me, even though I'd just walk in.
Horrible bosses can turn a dream job into a nightmare.
Your boss completely affects your work experience.
But with an unemployment rate of 9.2%, trouble with the boss may not be an employee's biggest concern.
The economic climate, the way that it is, I think employees are more likely to put up with some nonsense that in the past they may not have.
Job demands have increased dramatically. People feel that they have to work harder, they have to work faster.
Who hasn't had a horrible boss? I just need to know. I think we all have, at one point.
It's a universal theme that's been mined by Hollywood in movies like The Devil Wears Prada.
The tales of your incompetence do not interest me.
Hear me out, Simpson.
And on TV shows like The Simpsons.
But sir,
Experts say movies like Horrible Bosses can be the start of a conversation.
See if you can step back and laugh. That always helps.
And maybe even help some bosses become a little less horrible to workers.
Running a business is never easy, but it's important to try to remember in the hardest times and the most stressful moments that they are trying to do their best for you.
What should you do if you have a horrible boss? With us now, psychotherapist Robbie Ludwig and Rod Kurtz, AOL's small business executive editor. Welcome to both of you.
Good to see you. You going to see the movie, Lester?
I think I will. I don't know if I'll be able to identify with it, because I've had wonderful bosses, including the ones I have here. All right, we'll talk about sucking up in a minute.
They're watching.
But let's talk first about, Rod, let me ask you, what's the difference between a demanding boss who gets under your skin and an abusive boss?
Yeah, we were talking a little bit during the break. It's a little bit, I would say, a demanding boss is like a basketball coach. You see someone like Bobby Knight, who's this Hall of Fame coach. He's a screamer. He's a yeller. He demands the best from his players. It can, as you saw in the case of Bobby Knight, it can cross the line. There's obviously in the workplace sexual harassment. There's verbal harassment. And my advice to people working for bigger companies is your HR department is there for a reason. If you think it's crossed the line, maybe take it to them.
We all know about the HR department, but Robbie, here's the deal. Unemployment 9.2% right now. A lot of people think not a good time to stir things up and to maybe go after the boss.
Well, it's true, and you always want to work with the person that is in charge of you and try to make the most out of the situation. If you feel it's really bad, assume your boss doesn't know that you're upset with them and have a conversation, and maybe you can turn things around then.
But you have to discern whether this is personal or business, what they're coming after you, right?
Yes, but you know, sometimes people have bad personalities and they don't know how to handle power, and they don't realize that they're not bringing the most out of you in your work life.
And it's usually those that end up in the corner office, the one with the bad personality.
Yeah, and then Rod, you know the deal. I mean, you get a bad boss, and what do people do? They go to the water cooler and they talk about what he did here. And I know one of the pieces of advice you have is don't go negative.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we're emotional. We're tied to our work. We spend more time at our job now than we do with our families. We're all working hard. That's the reality. You can't go negative, especially at a small company. The ones I cover, it travels so quickly either by the water cooler or don't forget about the virtual water cooler, Facebook and Twitter. It's going to get back to them somehow. You have to be really careful because
and you always want to do your best anyway, because you know, you want to ask yourself, are you bringing your best game? Are you doing your best job regardless of how good your boss is?
You want to keep the moral high ground.
You want to make sure that you're not burning any bridges and that your reputation is strong, just in case you really like the company.
And you sometimes think of the boss as the grown-up, that they're they should be more responsible. It's on you to do it, too.
What about developing a relationship with the boss? I'm not talking about buddy-buddy, but a little flattery here, a little personal talk. How are the kids?
I like your outfit.
Yeah, it goes, you know, your favorite sports team. If you're a Yankees fan, they won, you know. It's, I hate to say it, but bosses are human, too. You know, they may not seem like it. And, you know, compliments, little things like that. You don't want to seem like you're kissing up in an obvious, flagrant way, but, you know, even being proactive, trying to take on more responsibility is going to resonate with a boss.
Here's a good compliment. you can let your boss know when they're on the right track with you. So if you can say, you know what, when you gave me those 5 minutes to really sit down with me and tell me how I did well on this project, that worked so well for me. So that you're reinforcing their style that brings out your best work on the job. And that's a good way to compliment your boss and help them work with you in the proper way as well.
You know, I mentioned the 9.2% unemployment, but our bosses have bosses too. At some point we have to sit back and realize, okay, they're getting their own kind of pressure.
You know, I think it makes sense to be wise and see the bigger picture and realize that your boss also has pressures. And, you know, they're going to be on the line too. If somebody is really behaving outrageously bad, their time will probably come too. And maybe what you need to do is look to other people outside of your boss for mentoring or to get that positive reinforcement. If it isn't coming from your boss, which it may not, then find it maybe from other people in the company or outside in your personal life.
You two going to see the movie?
I think we might go after this. We'll catch a matinee. How about
Save me some popcorn.
There you go.
Robbie Ludwig, Rod Kurtz, good to have you both here.